Jennifer.
Hi, great to be here. Rachel, how are you?
I'm not too bad, thank you. I expect you're going to be less fine after I tell you what we're going to be doing
I have a
today.
feeling it might involve payback.
I think it will definitely involve payback. So, as you'll recall, you put me through an excruciating experience when you asked me to pick my favourite games, playing your bracket game.
I
So,
did.
I have concocted a bracket game of my own.
Ooh,
So, what we're going to do is we're going to go through and we're going to pick your favourite game.
great. What was your winner again?
So, my winner was Dragon Age Origins, which I think
Okay,
is accurate. So, we're going to work
okay.
out what yours is also. Now, we've picked some of these games because I know you love them, but I don't know a lot about them. So, you're going to have to tell me a little bit just so I know why you're making the choice that you're making. So,
Yeah, I say I do have a bit of a thing for older games as well, so I'm sure for those I've mentioned to you are going to crop up.
hey, any game goes in the bracket game. So we're starting off. Again, this is completely random. We're going to go 2 Point Hospital against Pikmin.
Okay, so now Pikmin is a fantastic series. It's controlling parts of an army who've got special abilities. You're basically enslaving these plant animal creatures to do your bidding to help you get off a ship. It's all in a dystopian area, but it's so cute. It's fantastic. You get attached to these gorgeous little creatures that you end up getting killed by the local wildlife. You have to all take them all to bed at night. They're amazing. They're so much fun.
This
Super hospital, you run a hospital.
Pikmin sounds confusing to me. Cute, but also enslaving, but also killed by wildlife.
Yeah, it's completely
That's what I'm
crazy,
getting.
and you have to kind of murder local wildlife, abduct their
Ah.
bodies, and turn it into being able to make new versions of yourself. It's tough sell, but all three games are fantastic. Really, really recommend them. However, they are frustrating at times. They look childish, but they're very tricky. If it was all three Pikmin games, it probably would be Pikmin. But for now, because of the amount of hours I've invested, and I'm sure I'll talk about it more later, I'm going to be going with 2 Point Hospital.
Excellent. Okay. Second matchup, we've got Super Paper Mario versus
Yeah.
Breath of the Wild from The Legend of Zelda.
So Super Paper Mario was on the Wii, played it a lot. Breath of the Wild, one of the greatest games of all time, and I've really struggled to get on with it. I've just not got very far. I keep picking it up, and
Hmm.
I'm just feeling really frustrated with it.
Does it feel more like a chore than an enjoyment?
It's one of those things where everyone has told me it's good, so how can I possibly be wrong? So I
Hmm.
keep giving it more chances than I should. If it was any other game, I
You'd
would
have
have
just
given
put it
it the
down. Yeah.
I'd have just gone no. But I've got a lot of time for Super Paper Mario. So on that basis, unfortunately, yeah, Breath of the Wild is not even going to
Ooh.
make it out the first round.
I mean, that's a tricky matchup to be fair, because you've got two Nintendo superstars, and now we've got one. Matchup number three, we've got Crash Nitro Kart versus Assassin's Creed 2.
This is a battle between the really suave, sexy guy and Ezio. Crash Nitro Kart was the sequel to Crash Team Racing, which is the Mario Kart version from the Crash Bandicoot series. Now, I actually preferred this to Mario Kart. Spent a
Ooh.
lot of time on the PS2 game, going through the tracks, getting all the records, discovering all the secret routes, unlocking all the characters. Really great game, an awful lot of fun. But as to say, Assassin's Creed 2 was pretty significant, and all that jumping around Florence, getting to know Ezio and his family. Fantastic game. So I'd say it will be Assassin's Creed that goes through.
Excellent. Would you say Assassin's Creed 2 is your favourite of the Assassin's Creed franchise?
I would potentially say one of the other Ezio games. So I had a
Okay.
lot of time for both Brotherhood and Revelations. Now it was quite a long time that I played them in full. I have got the remastered edition, but didn't really get as far along, so difficult to say.
Okay, but the most important question, sexiest Ezio, which game?
A lot of time for mature Ezio, but yeah, but the younger
Revelations
Ezio.
Ezio.
Yeah, yeah.
Ooh, okay.
A lot of time for him, but probably the younger Ezio.
Fair enough. Now we've got Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 versus Pokemon Go, which I know you're a big fan of.
I am. So yeah, so I recently really got back into Pokemon Go. I've got some friends who play it as well, and it's something that last summer I was going out walking an awful lot more with Pokemon Go. Still playing it, been playing it this morning, not gonna lie, there's an event on, so
Of
had to do
course.
some things this morning and just really enjoying it. I have done some of the paid events as well. I have paid some game to a mobile game,
Have
but
they
as someone
changed it
who does
much because of the lockdown? Because obviously we can't go
it's
out walking
oh
as much as we would have done.
it's a completely different game. They've
Wow,
done
okay.
a fantastic job. There's some bits which are still, you've got to do a limited amount of walking, but they've upped the spawn rates. There's now incense. You don't have to walk to do this battle thing. They've now, like, literally a few weeks ago, they brought out remote raid passes so you could do raids that you could see from home. Fantastic. Really, really good. It is a game that I could just drop. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 was a very significant game in my childhood. I'm sure I'll talk about it later. So it will be Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 for me that goes through.
Okay. So the next one, we've got Day of the Tentacle versus Guitar Hero. Now, I don't know what Day of the Tentacle is, so tell me about that one.
Oh, so Day of the Tentacle is a point and click adventure game from LucasArts. It's hilarious. So a mad professor has got these tentacles, so imagine the size of a small child, as kind of pets. They all speak and so on, and they drink some toxic sludge and grow arms. One of the evil one grows arms, purple grows arms, and it was a disaster. And through some very cryptic, very odd things that have to happen where you go into the past, present, and future, you have to try and change fate so that purple can't grow arms. This includes things such as going back in the past, having to convince George Washington to put in the United States Constitution that everyone must have a vacuum cleaner in their basement. So when you're in the future, there's a vacuum cleaner there and you can do things with it. It's hilarious. Got a lot of time for it. However, Guitar Hero, such a phenomenon, and the amount of hours that went to that, difficult, but I am going for Guitar Hero on this one.
So next up, we've got Super Mario Galaxy versus Rock and Roll Racing.
So, Super Mario Galaxy on the Wii, Rock and Roll Racing is an underrated gem on the Mega Drive. Now, everyone I have spoken to about Rock and Roll Racing, when they've eventually played it, it's an isometric racer that you have basic kind of boost firing and mine weapons, and there's kind of a mini soundtrack of rock songs. Super Mario Galaxy, this is the first one I'm really going to struggle with, I think, because Super Mario Galaxy, it's on the Wii. I've played it maybe 3 or 4 times, so it's obviously the first time you meet Rosalina. You're playing with the Lumas, having to kind of feed them and talk to them. There's all the effect of gravity in there, and I massively prefer this to Super Mario Odyssey, actually. But with Rock and Roll Racing, it's a game no one's heard of, but as soon as I've got people into it, hearing Black Sabbath's Paranoid, but in MIDI format with, there's
Oh,
actually even a
amazing.
commentator. It's so good. And there was actually a character called Cat. So it was like, Cat's in first place. And it was like, oh, yeah. Oh,
I
yeah.
bet you loved that.
I really did. And you know what? I think for that reason, just how much I'm smiling thinking about that game, I am going to put through Rock and Roll Racing. Now, Super Mario Galaxy is fantastic. If you've not played it, it is my favorite Mario game. However, just thinking about how much I'm smiling with Rock and Roll Racing, that's going through.
I think that's a good way to do it. How does that pain feel, by the way?
Not good.
Did it feel
Not good.
nice? Did you enjoy it?
Not in the slightest. And I've seen the next one as well, where I've got to defend a kind of a smaller game against a juggernaut.
So our next matchup is Minecraft versus SSX 3.
I don't think I have to explain what Minecraft is too much, but I've mostly been playing it on LAN. So it will be with people that I've lived with. We've had little worlds, we've done different things, we've had mods. I've not got into playing with strangers or going on to any larger servers. But I've been with that game for maybe 8 years now, thinking back. Probably about 8 years that's been
That's a
part of my
chunk.
life. And
That's a big chunk.
it's something that I know I can pick up at any time and something that will always be there. And because of the
Yeah,
amount of
yeah.
the community behind it, it can be pretty much any game I want it to be. SSX3 is a snowboarding game where there's kind of three gameplay modes. One where you're just kind of free, just roaming around. There's not really much to do. There's then the racing modes, and then there's the freestyle modes where you have to do tricks to gain things. Now, the thing that blew me away when I was playing this when I was younger on the PS2, is the fact that the tracks, the levels, are split up over peaks of a mountain. So each peak had its own kind of hub world, and then you could go directly onto a track from this hub world. However, as the game opened up, one of the last levels was you had to snowboard. You had to do a race down the entire mountain, and it strung together all these different peaks, all these different racetracks. So as you'd been performing along the way, you got better and you had to do the entire mountain. The soundtrack, hugely influential on me. Oh, so my favourite song, potentially, it would actually be Way Away from Yellow Card. So I even learnt that on the violin. And,
Oh,
I've in particular got a cuddle from the
that is the
violin.
most cat
That's all.
thing I've heard today.
You know what? I think if I was to petition any game to have a HD remake or remaster, I would be aggressively pushing for SSX3 because it's such a good
Oh,
game.
really? That's a great question.
I think because it is such a good game, just the way it opened out. And I think more people would love it if they played it. Whereas Minecraft has the opposite problem where so many people have played it. It is a fantastic game, but again, I'm just smiling. I've had some great times in Minecraft. I've built some amazing worlds with friends. I've done so many things, but just that kind of bigness just kind of is overwhelming. So again, for how much I'm smiling thinking about it, it's going to be SSX3.
Right, on to our next one. So we've got Sonic 3 versus Skyrim.
Sonic 3 on the Mega Drive, my goodness, first one of the Sonic games with a save system. It was also really great that you could plug that into the Sonic and Knuckles cartridge and you get the whole game again different as well. Probably my favourite of the Sonics. Love the worlds, particularly love the ice one. And there's all these rumors and theories about how the music was made by Michael Jackson, but the music is incredible. However, Skyrim was my first introduction to big open world RPGs. So it will be Skyrim that goes through on this one, but Sonic 3, if you've not played it, is still holds up because of the art style, is a fantastic side-scrolling platformer.
Oh, good one for you. So Spyro 2, Gateway to Glimmer versus Streets of Rage 2.
This is not a good one for me.
No, this
Rachel,
is what I want.
Rachel, this
I
is
want
not.
you,
This is no, this
want
is
you
not a good one
to
for me.
feel the pain that I felt.
No, both of these games I have massive emotional attachments to, and I would have said both of these games my top 5. I'm having to
Oh,
remember,
really?
yeah, which is why, yeah, hands on head situation,
Revenge
and it's
is sweet.
revenge is best served over Zoom.
Yes,
So,
that's what they all say.
Spyro 2 platforming game called Ripto's Rage over in the States. I first got introduced to it from a demo disc from PlayStation Magazine. Yes, shout out. Absolutely loved it. One of the biggest regrets in my entire life is I took all 3 of the original Spyros, so 1, 2, and 3, Year of the Dragon, took them into Electronics Boutique, and I traded them in for a game that, again, read in PlayStation Magazine that was supposed to be very good called Hurdy-Gurdy.
I don't even know what that is.
It was awful. It was one of those games that was even so bad that it did the whole thing where it loaded a loading bar, then it went onto a different screen for another loading bar, and you
Oh,
had to kind of herd different animals around. And you know what? Probably the biggest regret of my life. If I could turn back time, I'd get that. I'd undo that.
that is a really sad story, actually. Did you feel betrayed by PlayStation Magazine?
I did. And I even saw the in the kind of secondhand basket in Electronics Boutique that they had all of my 3 were still bagged up to sell, and even a part of me was like, do I just buy them back? obviously I have now over time bought the different ones, and since then I have not traded in a game since. Streets of Rage 2. Bought this off one of my dad's friends from the Mega Drive. I have played through that game so many times. The music is incredible. The art style was amazing, just really well balanced in how the characters work. I'm not a huge fan of the side-scrolling beat 'em up genre, but Streets of Rage 2 is incredible. If I've kind of got a spare 45 minutes, I can just sit down and just play through Streets of Rage 2. So I used to play this with my younger brother. We were really good at playing together cooperatively. So we knew where all the power-ups were. We would share them out. And then when I've played with new friends or partners, I've known exactly where the spots where the one-ups are. So I've just been able to go in and steal them.
Important question. Who was better, you or your brother?
Oh, me.
Oh, of course.
Without question. So also my brother owned the original PlayStation. So anytime I wanted to play Spyro, I had to ask him to use it. So when I got my own PS2 and I was able to just play it myself, great times. And if you haven't played the remaster, really, really well done. I mean, I platinumed it within a week, but as someone who is a big nerd of the original three, shame they didn't make any more. I think the one that's going to have to go through, because I have got so many other platformers in there, this is probably the one beat 'em up I'm assuming you've put in here. So just to kind of represent the genre, Streets of Rage 2 is going through, and I am really excited to play Streets of Rage 4.
I've got that download. I've never played a Streets of Rage game, and I've got that downloaded ready to go, so I'm hoping it's as good as you say.
It's brilliant. You'll have a great time.
I hope so. Okay, next up we've got Horizon Zero Dawn versus The Witcher 3.
Horizon Zero Dawn was my game of 2018. It was actually the same year that Breath of the Wild came out. And the reason I didn't play Breath of the Wild kind of that launch year was I thought they were really similar. So kind of machines taking over by corruption, having to kind of do the stealth and parries and kind of leveling up different things. And I kind of was taking the mickey because I thought they were really similar games. It's incredibly beautiful. Aloy is a wonderful protagonist. So much time for her. Can't wait to see where this goes. And that kind of nature versus robots thing has been done so much in gaming and in movies, but how they did it was really exciting. And, you know, being able to climb up your first ones and being able to do all these kind of things was really great. And it felt, and even though it was an open world RPG, as is The Witcher 3, it felt like it's very, very much its own thing. But The Witcher 3 is The Witcher 3, so that's going through.
I mean, I feel like that's, enough said. Okay, Pokemon Shield, Lego Star Wars.
As we've probably already gathered, I'm a massive Pokemon fan. So Pokemon Shield, obviously set in the UK. First one on the Switch. So for a Pokemon game, it looks beautiful. You had the wild area to explore. New Pokemon, got a lot of time for. Got a lot of time for the new designs in this one. There is DLC coming out later this year, and with all the raids with friends, I've set up groups with some of my friends. We've got group chats to talk. But Lego Star Wars is going through. Got a lot of time for Pokemon
Interesting.
Shield.
Now, I really didn't think you
Lego
picked
Star
that,
Wars.
so that is
Yeah,
for
difficult.
me. So next one we've got GTA 5, Pokemon Fire Red.
Grand Theft Auto 5 is a game that I originally bought on the 360 and then rebought on the PlayStation 4. I've definitely completed the main game. Definitely not twice, but on the PlayStation 4 in particular, I did spend quite a bit of time online with friends. Now, I don't get on very well with first-person shooters. I pretty much just had a special carbine rifle, and that was just the gun I used because I have just no interest in guns. Solwax FM was probably my favorite radio station, weirdly. And Pokemon Fire Red was actually the first Pokemon game I played. I got into Pokemon quite late in life, played like a dodgy emulated version. I've since rebought it. But I played a dodgy emulated version on my PC. I didn't even realize that the emulator had a glitch and it was playing the music at twice the speed. And I didn't even know. And I just thought, hey, this is Pokemon.
I'm pumped, I'm motivated.
That's where I kind of started. So I have a routine where my starter Pokemon is the only one with a name. and they tend to have an old man name. So I'm pretty sure my Charmander to Charizard was called Reginald. No, Reginald was my Rowlet. I think it was Harold was the name of that. It was from there that kind of ignited this kind of real interest in it. And I've played I played all of the Pokemon generations apart from Black and White. That's the only one I haven't played. So as much as I did really enjoy Grand Theft Auto, the time spent in it, for sheer nostalgia and what it ignited, Fire Red is going through.
Next, we've got Donkey Kong Country and Stardew Valley.
Donkey Kong Country, Super Nintendo. I've actually got it on display downstairs because I just really, really enjoy that game. The art style is amazing. The soundtrack is just bang on. Some of the levels genuinely scary. Can't stand Stop and Go Station. That's just horrific. And for a game of its age, it holds up. I also really enjoyed Donkey Kong Country 3, which I know a lot of people aren't as fan of, but I've never actually completed it, which is interesting because Stardew Valley is also another one of those games that you just can't quite complete. You're kind of farming, you're getting to know the villagers and so on. I think for sheer time spent in it and just being a better overall game, I am going to go with Stardew Valley on this one, but it's making me
Okay.
think I want to replay Donkey Kong Country.
Torchlight 2 and then Spider-Man from 2018.
So I recently actually reinstalled Torchlight 2 and started to play it. So this is a game created, it's a dungeon crawler created by some of the development team behind Diablo 2. They split for when 3 happened. So if you've played a Diablo game, you know what this involves. It's smashing enemies' faces in, loot, loot, loot. Keep your legendaries, look out for your epics, and level up. But it's just really fun, slightly more cartoony style than Diablo, but really enjoyed it. And I think on my Steam, I've actually put in something like 80 hours into this, and I kind of didn't
Wow.
realize it crept up to be so much. I did just recently play a hardcore mode. I didn't do very well. It's not hardcore isn't a great thing for me. I got melted by a bunch of bats. Spider-Man, I'm not into superhero characters in the slightest. I have watched some Marvel films, but I don't enjoy them. But I loved this so much. I cannot wait for the next one. I did actually end up agreeing to watch Into the Spider-Verse movie based on this game. It was fine. It
Yeah, I
wasn't
was gonna say, did you
amazing.
like it?
It's all right. I'm not going to watch it again. That kind of feeling of swinging around New York, yes, the quest got a bit samey, but if you compare that to a dungeon crawler kite game, that's not really a comparison. But actually, replaying Torchlight, it's good. It is quite repetitive, but actually, I think I would enjoy a replay of Spider-Man, so I am going to put that one through.
Okay, right, we're getting to the near the end now of the first round. So, Tony Hawk's Underground 2 versus Wiz and Liz.
Okay, so Tony Hawk's Underground 2, another skateboarding game. This time it focuses around Tony Hawk versus Bam Margera. You go on a ridiculous, and it is ridiculous, almost Jackass style, round the world tour. You have to do stupid stunts. It's not time bound like the original one, so you can just get off your board, do a challenge, do this, do that. You don't have to have that 2 minute time slot to do something in. Again, as you would expect from some of these games, soundtrack is incredible. Wiz and Liz is another underground Mega Drive game that I have had so many people play, and it's amazing. So it's a side-scrolling game, but the map is kind of circular. So if you
Okay.
imagine it, you keep running to the right and you go around the same places again. There are rabbits all over the land, but they're called wabbits with a W.
Of course
And
they
if you
are.
Wiz and Liz are both wizards. If you run past ones of a certain color, so they're kind of grey and brown, they'll kind of then burst and transform into letters or fruits. This is making absolutely no sense. I'm sounding like a complete maniac, but the single player mode is so much fun. The multiplayer mode is so much fun. It's kind of like, it's fast paced, it's frantic. You'll be crap at first because you don't know the maps, but then you'll pick it up and you'll be really, really fast and running around. And again, it's just another game that not many people have heard of, but as soon as I've played it with someone, they've really enjoyed it. Tony Hawk's Underground 2, I spent a lot of time playing because I enjoyed it, but I don't necessarily think it's a particularly good Tony Hawk's game. Soundtrack was amazing. Really loved Jimmy Eat World's Pain on there, but I already knew it. Distillers, Beat Your Heart Out, actually got me into Distillers from there. Less Than Jake, still a massive fan of Less Than Jake based on that. So I think Wiz and Liz is going to go through.
Okay, so the last one for round one, Mario 64 against Earthworm Jim.
Now, you probably realise that one of my favourite consoles, if not my favourite, is the Mega Drive, which is what Earthworm Jim is from. In terms of Nintendo 64, I didn't get that until I was older. So I came to Mario 64 late. I had already played other games. As someone who didn't have the nostalgia to Mario 64, I really struggled to get on with it. I don't know if I got particularly far with it. I have also tried to play the remastered version on the 3DS, but again, I just have played other platformers that I think have done better jobs of the
Yeah.
genre. Whereas Earthworm Jim is just still hilarious. It's still wacky without it being too zany. So Earthworm Jim is going through.
Okay, and now we get to the business end. 2 Point Hospital versus Super Paper Mario.
Super Paper Mario on a Wii was my first and only venture into the Super Paper Mario world. So a lot of the part of the gameplay mechanic in this is that you are looking in one dimension as a 2D platformer. You kind of use an ability and the kind of screen flips. So you think, oh no, there's a big wall in front of me. You flip it into a different dimension that you're able to go through. The puzzles were really interesting, really unusual. It's my first time with them. There's a lot of other characters in there that are really funny, like genuinely funny, that you meet a massive nerd guy and he's unable to talk to Princess Peach without being all nerdy because he can't talk to girls. So
Oh,
the only way he can speak to her is he creates a dating sim, and then the whole gameplay changes. It's briefly a dating sim, takes the Mickey out of itself. A lot of fun. However, and I do recommend people play it because it's one of those games on the Wii that everyone's got a Wii, everyone can pick up this fairly cheap. Because it's that cartoony style, it still stands up. It's definitely worth checking out. 2 Point Hospital for nostalgia. I'll come on to that another time, I'm sure. And sheer hours, it's just got to be 2 Point Hospital.
I don't feel like that caused you as much pain as I wanted it to.
Well, sorry about that. I'll just go to the GP's office to get myself sorted out, shall I?
So then we've got Assassin's Creed 2 versus Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3.
One of these games I've definitely got a lot more memories of. So Assassin's Creed, let's talk about that first. When I got my Xbox 360, I was quite late to kind of moving up the consoles. I kind of had a bit of a gap. And I played Assassin's Creed, really enjoyed it. Instantly got Assassin's Creed 2, instantly got Brotherhood, instantly played Revelations. And I actually put Assassin's Creed 3 in my console. I started to play it and I realized I put the wrong disc in and I was actually playing the multiplayer version. And I kind of stopped with Assassin's Creed for a bit after that because I just completely binged it. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3, I got my PS2 as a surprise Christmas present. I wasn't expecting it, and my mind was just blown away. Still got so many great memories of playing Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3, whereas I think Assassin's Creed, I enjoyed it. I have bought the HD edition, but I haven't really got very far in it. I found it a bit clunky,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, it's just got to be Tony Hawk for me at this time.
Moving on, Guitar Hero versus Rock and Roll Racing.
Now, no question for me, Rock and Roll Racing.
Oh
I
my
will talk a bit more.
goodness.
I will talk a bit more about Guitar Hero though, because it's just one of those games that came out when I was at university. So we would gather around pokey TV, fat TV CRT one, with our big plastic controllers. Our mind was blown when the drum kits came out, but I was never able to kind of get to the next level of those games. I was able to play kind of medium and hard, but there's no way I could kind of get to it the extreme. I've already talked a bit about Rock and Roll Racing and why I love it. But so yeah, Rock and Roll Racing's going through.
Ugh, this is nowhere near hard enough for you. SSX 3 versus Skyrim.
You know what you said about it not being hard? Oh gosh. So I feel
Excellent.
like I've already talked and explained why I love SSX3 so much. I just want to grab that game and go happen again. It's sort of, I got the similar feelings when I played Steep, but not quite in the same ways. Skyrim, again, I've bought it on multiple things. I've got about 650 hours on my 360, and on my
Wow.
PS2, we got about 200 hours on there, different characters. Current character is a stealth archer. Some
I
reason.
am surprised by this
Yeah,
information.
I am Khajiit though, so I can get the night mode, and
Khajiit has
we do
wares.
have. I do have all the wares, and I even have the edition with the Alduin figure. There was a game, a run through I did, and I was like, no, I wanted to different aspects. I want to not play the same things anymore. One of the game modes, I did kill Parthenac, and I'm sorry, it was just the one time, and it was just for this one run through, just to see how the quest evolved.
How did you feel about it?
Awful, as you can tell, it's still awful. But again, it was that first big, massive open world experience. I will let Skyrim is going through, but please, EA, listen, remake SSX3, please make that happen.
EA are too busy at the minute making a remaster for me, so back off. Okay, Streets of Rage 2, The Witcher 3.
Again, these should not meet here. These should meet later. I think it's going to have to be The Witcher because of, mind you, I've put a lot of hours into Streets of Rage 2. Streets of Rage 2 is a 45-minute game. Witcher 3 is a 100-hour game. It's difficult to make that comparison, but the nostalgia on Streets of Rage 2, I want to see if I get the same feeling when I play Streets of Rage 4. But that's not what we were talking about. The Witcher is going through, but again, Streets of Rage 2, you should play it.
Chris or Yen?
Yen, all the time.
You're so wrong.
Oh, you're so adorable that you think that.
Adorable like my girl Triss. Okay, Lego Star Wars versus Pokemon Fire Red.
So Lego Star Wars, I had it on the PS2 prequel saga, and I rebought it on the Wii to play the full 6 at the time. So much fun, just smashing it all through, having to go back once you unlock the different abilities, having to try and find all the little puzzles, having to find all the little containers. Pokemon Fire Red, I've already spoken a bit about that game and how I played it. A lot of my love for Pokemon comes from kind of the concept of the whole thing. And, I do read Bulbapedia. I do read things about Pokemon as characters, creatures, and different things. If this was Lego Star Wars versus Pokemon, full stop, it would be Pokemon. But I think in terms of the very specific game, I think it's going to have to be Lego Star Wars because I just remember having so much fun doing that. Whereas a lot of Pokemon Fire Red, it is about the grind, it is about the leveling up, it's having to do this, it's having to do that. Pure those games, it's Lego Star Wars.
Are you a big Star Wars fan?
I enjoyed the films. I haven't seen the most recent 2, but they're enjoyable, but I wouldn't say I'm not a huge fan.
Okay, next up. Stardew Valley, Spider-Man.
Oh, this isn't fair. If any of these faced SSX3 would win against them.
I know, this is the horrible thing.
I liked both of these games. I really
Random.
did, but I didn't love them. I think I want to play, so I haven't played the DLC for Spider-Man, and I haven't played some of the latest Stardew Valley updates because Concerned Ape has done some updates. You know what, actually, Spider-Man was a huge game by Sony, backing from Marvel, huge studio. Stardew Valley's one guy, and he's done everything. For the amount of enjoyment I got per person that worked on it, Stardew Valley, easily. Yeah, so I do want to go back and play some of their updates. So I think Stardew Valley is going through. Strange logic.
Okay, Wiz and Liz versus Earthworm Jim.
So both Mega Drive games. Earthworm Jim is purely single player. So single player platformer. You have a gun. You have the ability to kind of whip your head at enemies. Lots of kind of crazy enemies to meet. So there's a very, very difficult underwater level where you have to go and beat at the end an evil goldfish who has kind of lots of minions that does his bidding. However, he is very intelligent, but just a goldfish. So you just take him out of his bowl. And that's the boss fight. And that's after doing a ridiculously, painfully difficult submarine level. Oh, it's so difficult. It's just so much crazy fun. But Wiz and Liz, it's single player. and it's competitive, and there's boss fights, and there's secrets to learn, and you have to kind of get these fruits and vegetables that you had to collect, and you mix them together to make potions. So I still have in my original Mega Drive box, I've got my handwritten list of what the potions create if you put a cabbage and an apple together.
That
Both
is
really, really
so
good games.
adorably nerdy. I love it. And I love that
Both
you still
fan-
got it.
Of course, I've kept everything ever since the Spyro incident. I have kept everything. So I think Earthworm Jim has been remastered. Definitely worth checking out. Still really good. But on a sheer variety of gameplay, I'm going for Wiz and Liz.
We're getting really into the nitty gritty now. 2 point Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3.
Okay. Deep breath.
Show your reasoning.
Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 is going through. But I haven't spoken much about 2 Point Hospital. So as a youth, I spent a lot of time playing Theme Hospital. So much time. When 2 Point Hospital was announced, I was so apprehensive. There was no way it was going to be as good. Oh my goodness, it is. It has that same feeling about it. It's people that are ill. Yeah, people are, there's pandemics you've got to help vaccinate people against, but it's inviting enough that you want to do these kind of things. Created by Team 17 in the UK, it is such a good game, and all the DLCs as well just keep adding more and more variety. Really, really enjoy it. But I've already spoken quite a bit about it, but Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3, also nostalgia in the same way that 2 Point Hospital brought about nostalgia about Theme Hospital. So it does combine the both there. And again, really want a new Tony Hawk game. Just it's all tied up in licensing and company takeovers and stuff. So it's incredibly unlikely to happen.
I
But
second that. I would quite enjoy a Tony Hawk's game, I think.
yeah, there are some new skateboard games coming out soon, but I think they're focusing more on being technically correct. Whereas Tony Hawk was like, yeah, of course you can grind this rail for 15 minutes. That's fine.
And I also really enjoyed designing my board.
Yeah, I'm not too fast on board design, but I think I have played it with pretty much every character because there were so many really cool unlockables. So you could actually unlock things like Darth Maul. You could
Oh, sweet.
unlock like kind of a sweary policeman. You can actually play as the Neversoft eyeball. So you remember in the intro there was like that eyeball that
Oh,
came.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
You
The
can actually play
round
as that
one.
eyeball. So yeah,
Interesting. How would an eyeball skate, pray tell?
play Tony Hawk 3 and find out.
Let's move on to our next one. Rock and Roll Racing versus Skyrim.
Oh yikes! This is a tough one. Rock and Roll Racing is incredible. Look up some videos on it. Just the way that the commentary works, just the track list of the music in there. Radar Love is on there. Paranoid is on there. It just works so well, and you go to different planets, and they've all got their different themings. But Skyrim is just its own experience. So Skyrim is going through.
The Witcher 3, Lego Star Wars.
Lego Star Wars is a lot of smashy, grabby fun. It's bright, it's colourful. Witcher 3, particularly in Velen, is just gritty reality. But then you go to Toussaint, and that is a lot more bright and colourful and smashy. It's got to be The Witcher 3 in the same way that in the sheer amount of gameplay that there is, in the same way that Skyrim can't compete with Rock and Roll Racing. It's a similar thing here. And I have put so many hours into both games, but you're just getting so much more game.
Okay. Stardew Valley, Wiz and Liz. Talk to me.
It's going to have to be Wiz and Liz, I think.
Wow, so quickly you decided.
Yeah, because again, I feel like we're going to champion these weird underground games, and the fact that I've converted so many people to it as well. Oh gosh, I might even play that this afternoon a bit because and I've not played anything else like it. With Stardew Valley, yes, it is very good at what it does, but is it that different from? It is, you know what? It is completely different from other life simulators. So even things like Terraria, you're even looking at Minecraft in a little bit. But I have never played a game again like this and this.
We're nearly there. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 or Skyrim.
So both of these were significant for me in getting a new console because I did actually buy my Xbox 360 to play Skyrim. I did get my PlayStation 2. So you know what? These are probably my defining games. Oh, maybe SSX3, but yeah, these are my defining games of each of those console eras. On a PS2, I was playing a lot of kind of extreme sports games, even though I don't like sports. I was playing so much Tony Hawk games. I was playing so much SSX3. Whereas Xbox 360, I was playing these kind of open world games. So, your Skyrims, your Assassin's Creeds. And yeah, these are probably defining of the consoles, which is actually quite
Oh.
interesting how that's come out. And then, I say Skyrim, I have rebought on a PS4. Tony Hawk Pro Skater 3, I would rebuy in a heartbeat if there was a Kickstarter. Let's make it happen. I know we don't
Nudge, nudge, wink,
Kickstarter.
wink.
No, Kickstarter scare me. You also got the comparison in the music in terms of music that has genuinely defined my musical tastes over later in my life versus full orchestral backgrounds. We've got invested into one character versus playing the game through multiple times in different characters. You have that 2-minute window to do something in Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3, which they dropped in the later games, versus playing for hours and hours and hours without needing to do anything in Skyrim. So these games are so incredibly different.
And yet you have to choose between them.
I'm putting through Tony Hawk Pro Skater 3. Not
Wow.
as a slight against Skyrim, because I have put so many hours in, I have done so much, but we all know it's good. These skateboarding games that kind of really help define who I couldn't skateboard. I have the worst balance in the world, but it influenced, I was into kind of the rock goth look when I was younger. I've invested so much money in concerts. I've seen bands because I've got into that kind of music through Tony Hawk and these kind of games. So that is going through.
And then The Witcher 3 versus Wiz and Liz. Or Wiz and Liz.
Witcher 3 is going through. I've already spoken so much about why I love this weird little game that has 7 letters and 2 apostrophes in it that I don't think I can do any more to champion it. But The Witcher 3, that kind of open world experience was, again, for me, like Skyrim, that kind of big thing, but it had that proper full experience of a story.
Mm-hmm. What ending did you get? Hashtag spoilers.
Ciri became a Witcher.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously there's a scene where she kind of doesn't reappear, and I didn't do any spoilers. I was just like, oh, okay, oh, and it was that emotion.
We're in the final. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 versus The Witcher 3. All the threes.
Unfortunately, I feel like I'm going to be really basic with my answer because I do have a winner. It is The Witcher 3. It's the best game of the two. I think I should have been more specific at the beginning as to which games had the biggest effect on me, because I do remember finishing the Blood and Wine DLC, going up the stairs to meet my partner and curling up in a ball on the floor and going, oh, it's like you're having an existential crisis, aren't you? But in terms of what had a bigger impact on me, a game that actually influenced real world me, then it was Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3. But I was at a right age where I was more impressionable, whereas I played The Witcher 3 as an adult. So
you didn't play The Witcher 3 and immediately think, I need to go slay some monsters?
No, but I went out and bought, shoes and albums, and I've been gigs since because of Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3. The Witcher 3 is my favourite game then.
So, would you say, based on all of the games that we had at the beginning, would you say that's a fair outcome?
It was in my top 5. I've always, wouldn't have doubted that. Would I have put? It's difficult because again, if Witcher 3 came up against the whole of Pokemon, it would be Pokemon, I think, because again of what's influenced my life. And I've been to Japan. I've been to we go out of our way to go to Pokemon centers in Japan to go and buy things. I've got so much Pokemon merch. I really love the franchise. So
But unfortunately, you're not allowed an opinion because we've done a scientific experiment and The Witcher 3 is
yeah,
your favorite game.
yeah. It's also I have also been exposed to it recently because of someone I know is playing it. There we go. My favorite game is The Witcher 3.
I think Geralt would be pleased with that.
He probably would.
I think he would.
Well, thanks, I guess.
I am glad that you got to experience a little bit of what I experienced.
Mhm. Mhm.
Excellent. Well, The Witcher 3 wins. Right. I'll see you
Yeah.
next time.
Great. Can't wait if it's going to be like this again.
We'll see. See you later.
See you later.